Hey there, and welcome to The Explainer. So you're planning a trip to beautiful Costa Rica. Amazing. There's one app you're probably thinking you'll use the second you land, Uber. But should you? Let's break down everything you really need to know. Picture this. You've just landed, you've got your bags, you're ready for that pura vida lifestyle. You pull out your phone, and your thumb automatically goes to the Uber app. But hold on a second. Is that really the best move here? While the convenience is super tempting, the reality of using Uber in Costa Rica is, well, it's a little more complicated than you might think.
And this is the heart of the issue. You're about to step right into what everyone calls Uber's legal gray area. And honestly, understanding this one little phrase is the absolute key to getting around smoothly and, more importantly, safely. So let's dive in.
All right, first things first. Let's tackle this paradox head on. What on earth does it actually mean for you, a traveler, when a service like Uber is kind of, sorta, not really legal?
Okay, so here's the deal, plain and simple. Technically, Uber is not legal in Costa Rica. The government has not given it the official green light. But, and this is a huge but, they also collect a 13% tax on every single ride. See the confusion? It's not approved, but they're happy to take the money, so most officials just turn a blind eye.
So, what's the bottom line for you? Well, the good news is the risk is almost all on the drivers. They're the ones who could get hit with big fines. You, as a rider, you're pretty much in the clear. But, and this is important, you've got to be aware of the tension this whole situation creates with the official, red taxis. They see Uber as totally unfair competition, and sometimes things can get a little tense.
Okay, let's get down to brass tacks. Your very first test is going to be getting a ride from the airport. This is where that whole legal gray area thing stops being an abstract idea and becomes very, very real.
And listen up, because the airport you fly into makes all the difference. At the main airport in San José, that's SJO, grabbing an Uber is definitely doable, but you have to be smart about it. Now, at the other international airport in Liberia, LIR, totally different ballgame. Honestly, we'd say don't even bother trying. It's just not worth the hassle.
So, if you are flying into San Jose, here's your secret playbook. You're not going to get picked up right at the curb. Nope. You'll need to walk a little ways from the terminal, usually over to a bus stop on the main road. The number one rule here is to be discreet. Don't be waving your phone around shouting about your Uber. And when the car shows up, hop in the front seat. It just makes it look like a friend is picking you up, and that helps your driver avoid any potential trouble.
All right, so you've made it out of the airport. Now the big question is, where else can you actually count on getting an Uber? Let's take a look at the map.
Yeah, this really paints a picture, doesn't it? As you can see, Uber is pretty much a big city thing in Costa Rica. It's all about the capital, San Jose, and that whole Central Valley area. You'll find a few cars buzzing around Liberia City too, but the second you start heading out to the cool tourist towns or, anywhere rural, that availability just plummets.
Let's talk about those popular tourist spots for a second. Places like La Fortuna, near the Arenal volcano, or the beach towns of Jaco and Tamarindo. You might find an Uber. It's totally possible, but it's a real gamble. It's completely hit or miss. You could get lucky and find a car in 2 minutes, or you could be staring at your phone for an hour with nothing. So the big takeaway is, you just can't rely on it as your only way to get around in these places.
And I want to be super clear about this. If you're heading to more remote spots, like the incredible cloud forests of Monteverde or the chill Caribbean coast near Puerto Viejo, just assume Uber doesn't exist. It's basically a dead zone. You absolutely 100% need to have a plan B. That means having a local taxi number saved in your phone or pre-booking a shuttle. Don't get stuck.
Okay, so if Uber is so spotty, what are your other choices? Let's throw them all in the ring and see how they stack up against each other. Uber versus taxis versus private shuttles.
Let's kick things off with the one thing everyone cares about, cost. And wow, the difference is pretty dramatic. Just look at this. For a typical short trip in San Jose, an Uber might cost you around 1,750 colones. That same ride in an official red taxi, we're talking more like 4,600. That's more than double the price. This massive price gap is really the number one reason why Uber is so popular, and it's also the source of all that tension we talked about.
So here's a simple way to think about it. Uber is going to be your cheapest bet, for sure. But remember, it's really only for the cities, and there's that little question mark about insurance. Now, the official red taxis, they're everywhere. They're regulated, they're insured, but you've got to watch out for what some people call gringo pricing. Make sure they turn on the meter. And finally, you have private transfers or shuttles. They're the most expensive, no doubt, but they're also the most reliable and have the most space. Perfect for airport runs, long-distance trips, or if you're traveling with a big group and lots of luggage.
Okay, you've got the lay of the land now, you know the pros and cons, so let's wrap this all up into a simple, savvy traveler's playbook for using Uber in Costa Rica.
All right, let's run through the do's. These are your golden rules. First, keep a low profile. Act like a local, especially around airports or taxi stands. Do sit in the front seat if your driver asks. It really helps them out. Absolutely do have a backup plan. I can't say that enough. Make sure your phone has a solid data connection because you can't count on finding Wi-Fi. And of course, the basics always apply. Double-check the license plate. Be respectful, and if you had a good ride, a tip is always appreciated.
And now for the don'ts. These are just as important. Please, don't get stranded in the middle of nowhere by assuming you can just call an Uber. Don't even try to get one right from the arrivals curve at Liberia Airport. It's a waste of time. Don't get into arguments with official taxi drivers. It's not worth it. And a big one, never ever accept a ride from an unmarked pirate taxi. It's just not safe. Your safety always comes first.
Okay, to finish up, let's step back from the logistics for a second and talk about something a little bigger, the ethics of the whole thing.
This quote here really hits the nail on the head. It says, choosing Uber can externalize costs onto vulnerable workers. So what does that actually mean? It means that super cheap fare you're so happy about, well, it doesn't just magically appear. Someone is paying the price for it, and that someone is often the driver.
And here's why that's so true in Costa Rica. Gas is not cheap there, and buying a car is crazy expensive because of these really high import taxes. So when you add all that up, plus maintenance, a lot of these drivers are barely scraping by. It's just something to think about. That incredibly convenient, super cheap ride has a real human cost behind it.
So we'll just leave you with this question to think about. When you're traveling, what does the right ride really mean to you? Is it just about what's cheapest or what's most convenient, or is there something more to it, like supporting the local economy in a way that feels fair to everyone involved? There's no easy answer, of course, but it's definitely a question worth asking as you're exploring the incredible Pura Vida lifestyle in Costa Rica.